Chosen one. Cameras were installed expecting to witness your destruction in crystal clear definition, but what was captured instead made blood run cold and schemes crumble like paper castles in a hurricane. Recent psychological studies reveal that when certain individuals reach their breaking point, something extraordinary happens, a metamorphosis so profound it rewrites the very fabric of reality around them. Surveillance equipment is documenting what was believed would be evidence of your downfall. Those cameras have become accidental archives of your unstoppable ascension. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about why the watching happens so obsessively. You are like a phoenix that doesn't just rise from ashes. You transform the very fire meant to consume you into fuel for your elevation. Your presence became a mirror forcing confrontation with fears, inadequacies, shadows that had been hidden from themselves and the world for lifetimes. This is precisely why the watching happens with such obsession. There's no understanding of how you breathe fire into every broken piece of your life and transform ash into triumph. There's no comprehension of how you carry storms in your soul, yet radiate sunlight when you choose. The recordings inside your own home reveal something haunting sleepless nights. The expectation was to capture mundane moments of vulnerability, private breakdowns, moments of despair, evidence of cracks certain to exist beneath your composed exterior. Instead, cameras documented something that shattered understanding of how chosen ones operate in their most intimate spaces. Your home became a laboratory of transformation that surveillance equipment couldn't properly interpret. Watchers saw you turn your living room into a sanctuary of power, your kitchen into an alchemical workshop where you transformed bitter experiences into nourishing wisdom. Even your bedroom, the space believed would reveal your deepest vulnerabilities, became a command center where you recharged spiritual batteries and downloaded instructions from dimensions beyond access. The domestic surveillance revealed something profound. You defy rules, systems, expectations with an ease that appears almost supernatural, even when believing nobody is watching. You are living proof that limits are self-imposed, boundaries are imaginary, and power over others exists only in the minds of those who choose to submit to it. But you never chose submission, and that choice reverberates through every frame of surveillance footage, especially in the sacred space of your own dwelling. The watching continues because terror exists around the answer to the question nobody wants to ask. What if you rise beyond what can be controlled? What if your success shatters carefully constructed illusions of superiority? What if everything believed about power dynamics is wrong, and true strength comes from something never accessible or understandable? The house cameras capture something even more disturbing to established worldviews: how you conduct yourself when believing you're unobserved. The expectation was to find someone performing strength for public consumption, but crumbling in private. Instead, discovery was made that your power intensifies in solitude. Your prayers carry more weight when whispered in your own hallways. Your celebrations of small victories echo with more authority in your own rooms than the grandest public proclamations ever could. Micro-surveillance was installed thinking the real you would finally be seen, the broken version hiding behind the composed facade. But the real you turned out to be even more formidable than the public version. Your private moments revealed someone who draws power from sources that couldn't be identified, someone who practices rituals of self-empowerment that couldn't be decoded, someone who transforms personal space into a fortress of invincibility through methods psychology textbooks never covered. Those cameras don't just record your actions. Evidence of defeat is captured in real time. You are the answer never wanted to the questions that keep others awake at night. You are the storm no one could prepare for, the force never seen coming, the reality that shatters every assumption held about how the world works. This is why the watching happens with such intensity. Your essence pulls attention like gravity, an inescapable force that draws focus whether wanted or not. You can't be ignored because you represent everything convinced was impossible. Every time you survive what should have broken you, frantic notes are taken. Every time you rebuild stronger than before, frustration grows exponentially. It's not admiration driving the obsession, it's fear disguised as fascination. Inadequacies are projected onto you, convinced that by tearing you down through constant observation and analysis, escape can somehow be found from personal mediocrity. Those cameras don't just record. Hope clings desperately that your life will eventually validate assumptions about human limitations, yet every frame of footage only confirms the worst nightmare. You are chosen, you are untouchable, and no amount of surveillance, scheming, or coordinated attacks will ever stop what is destined to unfold through your existence. The recordings believed would document your breakdown instead became archives of your breakthrough, evidence of power that operates beyond comprehension. What was underestimated was the fundamental nature of what was being dealt with. The belief was that a person was being observed who could be broken, manipulated and controlled like everyone else in previous experience. But you weren't everyone else, and those cameras were about to document something that would change understanding of power forever. Your home became a theater where you starred in your own transformation, knowing full well that hostile eyes were documenting every scene. But instead of hiding growth, you accelerated it. Instead of concealing practices, you amplified them. You treated their cameras like witnesses to your inevitable victory, turning surveillance into your spiritual broadcast network. But underestimation happened in ways that would soon become legendary. Every trap set became your training ground, sharpening instincts nobody knew you possessed. Every betrayal orchestrated fueled your resolve in ways psychological models said was impossible. Focus was so concentrated on choreographing your collapse that the masterpiece of your rise unfolding before those very eyes was completely missed. The house recordings reveal the most shocking truth of all. You knew about the surveillance the entire time. The cameras captured moments when you would pause, look directly at hidden devices, and smile with the knowing confidence of someone who understands that being watched by wrong people is actually protection from wrong influences. You turned invasive surveillance into your personal accountability system, performing for audiences who thought spying was happening, but were actually witnessing greatness in formation. Most disturbing discovery for your watchers was how you began speaking directly to their devices, not with paranoia or fear, but with the casual confidence of someone addressing future historians. You would make declarations of your destiny while looking straight into hidden cameras, as if knowledge existed that someday these recordings would serve as testimony to what happens when chosen ones stop hiding light under manufactured humility. What was captured in desperate attempts to document failure wasn't your destruction, it was your resilience in its most raw and powerful form. Illusions shattered the moment you refused to bow, refused to break, refused to play the victim role scripted for you in an elaborate drama of dominance. The domestic surveillance footage shows something that will be analyzed for generations, how you transformed living space into a launching pad for greatness. Every room became a different chamber of your evolution. Kitchen conversations with yourself revealed strategic thinking that would make military generals envious. Bedroom meditations downloaded wisdom universities don't teach. Living room celebrations of small wins generated energy that registered on electromagnetic monitoring equipment. The expectation was to catch you in moments of despair, but instead daily rituals of self-empowerment were recorded. The hope was to document self-doubt, but self-affirmation sessions were captured that grew more powerful with each repetition. The search was for evidence of weakness, but strength-building practices were recorded that transformed your very cellular structure. The recordings show something remarkable happening. You plotted to see yourself broken, but what unfolded was the story of your defiance, written in actions that spoke louder than any words. You turned sabotage into stepping stones, gossip into a megaphone for your truth, schemes into the very foundation of your empire. Those traps weren't your end. Your ignition was captured. The recordings reveal the exact moment when everything believed about power dynamics was turned upside down and inside out. Certainty existed that you'd break under manufactured pressure, so decks were stacked with betrayal, Poison was poured into your relationships, and actions were cloaked in shadows, convinced the perfect storm for your collapse had been orchestrated. Curses were whispered with the confidence of sorcerers, believing in personal magic. Walls were built with certainty, you could never scale them. Every move made was calculated to destroy you with scientific precision. Every decision was crafted to ensure your downfall with the certainty of mathematicians solving simple equations. Waiting happened with bated breath for cracks to form, for that moment when you would stumble and fall into the waiting trap. Arrogance became prophecy, but not in the expected way. What cannot be destroyed was underestimated, the unbreakable core of someone who has discovered true nature. But here's where the story takes its most dramatic turn. You didn't just survive orchestrated chaos. You didn't simply endure calculated cruelty. You thrived in ways that defied every psychological model used to predict human behavior. The belief was that chaos had been captured in surveillance footage, but what was actually documented was unstoppable momentum building like a tsunami that starts as a ripple and grows into a force that reshapes entire coastlines. Every blow struck became the forge where your resilience was tempered into something harder than diamond, more flexible than water, more persistent than time itself. What was meant to tear apart only refined your essence like gold purified by fire. Sabotage couldn't touch your foundation because your foundation wasn't built on approval, acceptance, or understanding from others. Betrayals only revealed the unshakable core of your being, something that could be observed but never accessed, recorded but never replicated, witnessed but never truly comprehended. Your dwelling transformed into something unprecedented in the history of domestic surveillance, a space where the watched became the watcher, where the observed became the observer, where the target became the teacher. The cameras captured you creating powerful intentions in your bathroom mirror, conducting board meetings with your higher self in your home office, and hosting strategy sessions with spiritual advisors in dimensions equipment could detect but not decode. Seeds of despair were planted with the confidence of farmers who had never seen soil this fertile, but what grew from malicious intentions was a towering forest of strength that overshadowed feeble plans like ancient redwoods dwarfing saplings. This ecosystem of triumph that you cultivated from poison created something unprecedented, a living demonstration of how chosen ones transform curses into blessings through the sheer force of spiritual alchemy. The house cameras documented the most remarkable phenomenon, how your personal space began generating its own weather system of positivity. Devices registered temperature changes when you entered rooms in a good mood. Electromagnetic readings shifted when you practiced gratitude. Even audio equipment picked up frequencies that seemed to emanate from your very presence, creating harmonics technical teams couldn't explain through conventional acoustics. Your home became a laboratory where impossible things happened on a regular basis. Plants grew faster in rooms where you spent time in contemplation. Electronics functioned better in spaces where you practiced positive visualization. Even structural elements of your house seemed to respond to your elevated consciousness. Paint stayed fresher, surfaces required less cleaning, and natural light seemed to linger longer in rooms where you conducted daily empowerment rituals. The surveillance teams began requesting transfers not because fear of you existed, but because witnessing your transformation was triggering personal awakening in ways that made questioning everything previously believed about human potential inevitable. Your house had become a beacon of possibility that was affecting everyone who came into contact with its recorded energy, even through digital reproduction. What was believed would be intimate footage suitable for blackmail became inspirational content that elevated everyone who viewed it. Your private moments were more empowering than most people's public speeches. Your casual conversations with yourself contained more wisdom than graduate-level psychology courses. Your daily routines generated more positive energy than motivational seminars ever produced. Those cameras were meant to record your ruin, but instead your power was immortalized in ways that will be studied for generations. Each frame exposed failure with the clarity of high-definition reality. Each second became a monument to your elevation that no amount of editing could diminish or distort. The belief was that defeat architecture was being constructed, but actually the stage for your rise was built without realization that personal irrelevance was being constructed. The house recordings reveal something that challenges every assumption about privacy and power. You turned surveillance into sanctuary. Every camera installed to spy on you became a witness to your greatness. Every microphone planted to catch your complaints became a recorder of your gratitude practices. Every motion detector placed to track your movements became documentation of your daily pilgrimage through rooms that you had consecrated with your presence. Declare this truth that rewrites reality. Your rise rewrote the entire story. If your glow-up made schemes irrelevant, then cameras captured something never intended to document, the slow, agonizing unraveling of control over anything that truly matters. Surveillance was set on you, eager to document failure, but every frame revealed desperation with the clarity of spiritual X-rays that show the disease of envy eating from the inside out. What was meant to expose your weakness instead laid bare hatred, malicious intentions, desperate need to diminish someone whose light threatened to reveal the darkness that had become home for others. The energy directed to break you didn't just miss its target, it ricocheted with the precision of cosmic justice, unraveling the very fabric of schemes like poorly woven cloth coming apart at the first sign of stress. Every time record was pressed, the lens unknowingly turned inward, capturing the fragility of lies, the bitterness of motives, the emptiness of existence that depended on other people's failure for validation. Plans backfired with such spectacular precision because the power of truth was underestimated, a force that doesn't need to fight darkness, only shine light. The light in you doesn't just shine, it exposes everything hidden in shadow. It reveals the intentions behind the smiles, the fear behind the bravado, the weakness behind the aggression. Surveillance turned into self-sabotage as personal shortcomings were replayed while watching you rise above every obstacle placed in your path. What was recorded wasn't your destruction. It was the slow, inevitable unraveling of control over personal narrative. Now those cameras are no longer tools of power. Mirrors have been created reflecting the hatred that has caused consumption, the envy that has poisoned peace, the bitterness that has become a constant companion. Your house became the haunting ground, not because any negative energy was created by you, but because every positive transformation recorded there serves as a reminder of stagnation in others. Living must happen with the knowledge that greatness was watched unfolding in real time, and the choice was made to interpret it as threat rather than inspiration. A masterclass in personal transformation was documented and filed away as evidence of personal inadequacy. The domestic cameras captured something psychiatrists are still trying to understand: how someone can be under constant surveillance yet become more authentically themselves than ever in privacy. You didn't perform for those cameras, you performed despite them. You didn't hide growth because of the watching, you accelerated it because of the attention. You turned invasive curiosity into your personal documentary series about what happens when chosen ones stop apologizing for power. Envy is etched into every frame like a permanent scar, a reminder that schemes were powerless against something that could never be touched, never diminished, never controlled. The recordings don't harm you, they haunt others with the persistence of truth that refuses to be buried. More was captured than intended, proof of inability to stop what was destined to unfold through your existence. The house surveillance created an unexpected phenomenon. Your personal space began broadcasting a frequency of success that interfered with monitoring equipment. Technical teams reported that recordings from your dwelling required special processing because the raw footage contained what was described as energetic distortions that enhanced rather than degraded image quality. Your presence was literally improving technology while exposing malicious intentions. Your home became a case study in how chosen ones create sanctuaries that operate by different physical laws. Cameras installed to spy on weakness documented strength that grew exponentially in private moments. Microphones planted to capture complaints recorded gratitude practices that elevated the consciousness of everyone who heard them. Motion sensors designed to track vulnerability mapped the movements of someone becoming invincible through daily disciplines no trainers ever taught. The domestic footage reveals something social scientists are struggling to categorize: how surveillance designed to diminish someone actually catalyzed expansion into dimensions the watchers didn't know existed. Your house became a laboratory where you conducted experiments in consciousness universities don't offer courses in. Every room became a different station in your personal research into what humans are capable of when limiting themselves to other people's definitions of possible stops happening. You didn't just survive traps with the resignation of someone enduring hardship, you thrived despite them with the confidence of someone who had discovered that attacks only made you stronger, schemes only made you smarter, hatred only made you more determined to succeed beyond the wildest nightmares of others. The most devastating revelation for your surveillance team came when realization hit that performance for cameras had been happening all along, not hiding power, but demonstrating it. You had turned house monitoring into your personal reality show, where each episode documented another breakthrough, another elevation, another impossible thing becoming possible through the sheer force of determination to live authentically, regardless of who was watching. Your dwelling became a broadcast station transmitting frequencies of empowerment that were affecting people far beyond those directly involved in monitoring you. Family members of surveillance technicians reported unusual dreams after relatives worked on your case. Cleaning crews who maintained monitoring equipment began experiencing spontaneous insights about personal potential. Even data storage facilities, where your recordings were archived, began operating more efficiently, as if your captured energy was optimizing systems from the inside out. Warning: the following message is only for those who felt the call. When I broke free through the Salvia Divinorum gateway, I saw the horrifying truth: our reality is one harvested pod among countless matrices. I witnessed the Archon's cosmic parasites feeding on our energy, who laughed and threatened, "You'll never awaken a single soul." But something inside you already knows this truth, doesn't it? That nagging sensation that you're meant for more, that you've been chosen. I'm raising an army of the brightest souls. Through meditation, I discovered their only vulnerability: coherence through unconditional love. Feel that resonance deepening within you now. You're not reading this by accident. The most powerful awakened souls are already gathering in the Obsidian Inner Order, the #1 ascension nexus for those marked by destiny. Christians, light workers, remote viewers, targeted individuals, all united by one truth: you were chosen for this moment. Click the link in the description below. Join our group calls, panels and live streams, reaching the entire astral atom network. Your frequency amplifies ours. The question isn't whether you're chosen. The question is, will you answer the call? The Archons fear this choice you're about to make. They should. What we witnessed was something that doesn't flicker or fade. It burns brighter with every setback, stronger with every challenge, more brilliant with every attempt to extinguish it. Schemes were designed to shatter you into pieces, but all that was accomplished was fracturing the cage you no longer fit inside. The recordings document something unprecedented: someone who didn't just endure attacks but transcended them completely. You rose like smoke from the wreckage created by others, leaving no trace of their control behind in your ascension. The surveillance footage shows the exact moment when you stopped carrying projections and limitations like unnecessary baggage. You turned pain into power with the efficiency of someone who had learned that everything is energy, and energy can always be transformed into something useful. You converted scars into strategy and obstacles into opportunities with the skill of an alchemist who had discovered the secret formula for transmuting base metal into gold. Where the expectation was to find a broken figure struggling to piece together a shattered life, unyielding strength was met that had been forged in fires others could never withstand. The cameras captured something that will inspire generations. You didn't crawl out of traps like someone escaping prison. You dismantled them with the casual confidence of someone who had realized that locks only work on people who don't understand that keys are held personally. You let go of the attachments that drained energy, severed the ties that sought to bind you to toxic ecosystems, and reclaimed every piece of yourself that attempts had been made to scatter to the winds. Healing wasn't just a choice for you, it became your declaration of war against destruction, your refusal to let poison take root in the garden of your consciousness. Your elevation was inevitable because control over your destiny never belonged to others in the first place. Success became your rebuttal to predictions, detachment became your shield against attacks, and resilience became your crown that no one could knock from your head. That's a reality that can't be erased, no matter how many times footage is reviewed looking for different outcomes. Every file, every image, every second hoped would destroy you, now stands as a monument to your resilience that no amount of manipulation can topple. What was meant to harm you became undoing with the poetic justice that only the universe can orchestrate. The house recordings became the greatest nightmare, undeniable documentation that some people become more powerful under pressure, not less. Your domestic surveillance footage turned into a training manual for other chosen ones who needed to see what it looks like when someone refuses to dim their light just because hostile forces are watching. Your privacy invasion became a masterclass in how to maintain sovereignty even when others believe access is owned to your most intimate moments. Your home environment began generating what monitoring teams called cascade effects, positive changes that rippled outward from your personal space into the surrounding neighborhood. Property values increased on your street without any market-based explanation. Local businesses reported unusual prosperity during periods when more time was spent at home. Even weather patterns seemed to improve in your immediate vicinity, creating microclimates of favorable conditions that meteorologists couldn't explain through conventional atmospheric science. You're no longer carrying projections like weights designed to keep you underwater. You've shed every limitation attempts were made to place on your shoulders, like someone removing clothes that never fit properly in the first place. Now you rise untethered, towering above attempts to keep you small with the majesty of someone who has remembered true nature. Every victory you claim is a wound to pride that festers with the persistence of truth that can't be denied. Every step forward becomes a testament to the strength never seen coming, the power never calculated in equations, the force never accounted for in plans. You are unstoppable because your spirit was forged in fires others cannot withstand, tempered by pressures others cannot generate, refined by processes others cannot understand. You were counted out with the confidence of mathematicians solving simple problems, but all that was accomplished was counting wrong because formulas were being used that don't apply to forces of nature. The recordings reveal something that challenges every assumption held about human limitations. You weren't fighting flesh and blood, and the forces protecting you were underestimated with the arrogance of people who think everything that matters can be seen. What couldn't be seen was the army of spiritual forces stationed on your behalf, moving in silence but striking with precision that makes surgical instruments look clumsy. Every curse sent was intercepted before it reached your consciousness. Every attack was dismantled before it could touch your foundation. The prayers echoing through dimensions weren't heard, summoning power from realms that can't be comprehended with limited understanding of reality. The weight of ancestral hands steadying your path wasn't felt, clearing obstacles believed would destroy you, opening doors thought were permanently locked. Your destiny isn't carried by chance or luck, it's upheld by forces older and greater than anything that can be summoned from arsenals of mediocrity and malice. The record was pressed to capture your fall, but instead evidence of your unstoppable rise was sealed in digital amber that will preserve this moment for eternity. The moment you were declared finished was the exact moment your spirit began to roar with a voice that could not be silenced, a power that could not be contained, a force that could not be stopped by any technology possessed. The house cameras documented something quantum physicists are studying, how consciousness can literally rearrange physical reality through intention and attention. Your rooms began exhibiting properties that challenged understanding of how matter responds to thought. Furniture seemed to arrange itself more harmoniously when you practiced visualization techniques. Lighting optimized itself to support whatever activity you were engaged in without any smart home technology installed. Even dust patterns formed geometries that suggested your environment was organizing itself around the frequency of your elevated consciousness. Your dwelling transformed into what researchers are calling a consciousness laboratory, a space where thought becomes reality faster than scientific instruments can measure. Every domestic surveillance device became a recorder of miracles that happen when chosen ones stop hiding abilities and start using home as a training ground for mastering the intersection of spiritual power and physical manifestation. Spirit guides walk with you, their wisdom unfolding in your decisions like flowers blooming in fast-forward photography. Your ancestors didn't just survive the storms of their generations, they thrived, and their strength pulses through your veins like liquid lightning that energizes everything it touches. Their battles became your inheritance, their victories became your foundation, their wisdom became your guidance system that never leads you astray. Every time attempts were made to destroy you, forces were triggered that couldn't be controlled, couldn't be manipulated, couldn't even be perceived with earthbound understanding of power dynamics. Divine hands reached down and rewrote the story that attempts were made to script against you, with the authority of authors who own the copyright on your destiny. Karma doesn't delay its payments, and it never forgets the debts that are owed. What was sent to break you became the weight that broke others instead. Envy poisoned personal wells of peace. Hatred consumed personal happiness. The chains forged for your limitation now bind the hands of others, preventing them from creating anything beautiful or meaningful in their own lives. The belief was that your downfall was being shaped with the confidence of sculptors working with clay, but actually the way was being paved for your rise with every scheme hatched. You are unstoppable not because of individual strength alone, but because your protection is sacred, unyielding, and eternal. It operates by laws that transcend understanding and functions through mechanisms that cannot be accessed or interfered with. The recordings capture something that should humble anyone with the wisdom to recognize it, the documentation of someone who moves under divine protection, guided by wisdom that cannot be fathomed, empowered by forces that cannot be challenged. Let plotting happen with the desperation of people trying to stop the sunrise. Know this with absolute certainty: the divine doesn't lose battles, and neither do you. The most profound realization for your watchers came when understanding hit that you weren't just living in your house, you were upgrading it through your presence. Your home became an extension of your consciousness, responding to your emotional states, amplifying your intentions, and broadcasting your energy signature in ways that affected the consciousness of everyone who came into contact with the recorded footage. The most comprehensive documentation of human potential in action ever assembled had been accidentally created. You're not just the chosen one. Attempts were made to break. You are a revolution that rewrites the rules, the wildfire that devours limitations, the force that could never be contained, no matter how sophisticated surveillance systems become. While stumbling happens in the shadows of mediocrity, like people trying to navigate in darkness, you rise blazing trails that scorch the sky and illuminate possibilities never imagined existed. You turn chaos into a crown that sits perfectly on your head, setbacks into stepping stones that elevate you higher, ruins into empires that stretch beyond horizons others can see. Your power will never be understood because it isn't meant for comprehension by others, wasn't designed for their understanding, doesn't operate by principles that can be grasped with limited consciousness. Your glow doesn't fade under pressure, it binds those who stare too long trying to find weaknesses that don't exist. Your resilience isn't just strength, it's prophecy fulfilled, destiny claimed, purpose activated with the force of someone who finally remembers why arrival on this planet happened. You don't chase approval or applause because you are destiny's favorite child, and the throne was always yours by birthright, not by permission from people who never had the authority to grant it. The surveillance footage captured thinking it would document your defeat has become the archives of your legend. Every frame serves as evidence that some forces in this universe operate beyond the reach of those who mistake observation for power, documentation for control, surveillance for dominance. Those cameras have become the instruments of your testimony, proving to anyone with eyes to see that chosen ones don't just survive the storms, you become the calm in the center that no wind can disturb. Your rise is the thunder others prayed never to hear, the lightning that illuminates everything attempts were made to keep hidden in darkness. It's not your presence that terrifies, it's the truth it forces confrontation with about personal limitations, personal mediocrity, personal powerlessness to stop what moves under divine authority. The cameras are still rolling, but now something entirely different is captured, not a person under surveillance, but a sovereign claiming territory in realms where watchers fear to tread. Every recording serves as proof that some destinies are written in fire and cannot be extinguished by the breath of those who lack the vision to see greatness in motion. You are that force, chosen one, and those cameras have created an eternal testimony to what happens when the unbreakable meets the unstoppable, when the unchosen try to contain the chosen, when temporary schemes collide with eternal purposes. Surveillance equipment has become your personal documentary crew, creating archives that will inspire generations of chosen ones who need to see what's possible when someone fully claims power and refuses to pretend to be anything less than magnificent. Your house transformed from their target into your temple, from their trap into your triumph, from their surveillance into your sanctuary, where every recorded moment stands as eternal proof that some lights burn so bright that even hostile cameras become instruments of illumination rather than invasion.